Rachel and Dawn. So I'm curious, what is the secret to a successful writing collaboration?
Communication and trust.
Yes, lots of
Oh, those are
trusts.
probably really good things, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to have faith in each other. You have to trust one another and talk to each other a lot.
Mm, yeah, that must be really hard when you're used to writing by yourself and then having to rely on somebody else.
Mhm.
I could see how, like, if you're writing different chapters of a story or if you're writing different sections, how if you're not communicating effectively, how there could be such huge misses in either the editing process or the process itself. Was that something that you guys, both of you, learned early on, or has it been like a learning journey, kind of understanding that?
I believe we saw how other people reacted to us
Mm-hmm.
throwing things out there out of nowhere and seeing how they reacted versus how we reacted to each other's writing because we were in larger groups
Mm-hmm.
and we gravitated toward each other because we trusted each other with those curveballs that we threw each other. And it
Aw.
always came out better in the end instead of worrying about what my character would do or wouldn't do in that kind of situation.
Okay. That really makes sense. I'm so used to writing by myself. I'm trying to imagine, like, okay, if I was relying on somebody else, how would I develop the characters? How would I develop the world? But that's some really good advice. Is have there been any, let's say, what would you guys say has been the hardest part of this writing collaboration experience throughout the 20 years?
Well, because I mean, we real life comes into play, so you have to take
Mm,
time. You have to wait on each other. So sometimes real life does take its toll, and sometimes you have big spans where you have to wait on each other. I mean, I know I've had a lot of real life times where she's had to wait on me, and it's patience. So
mhm.
luckily, she has a lot of patience with me. So
Aw. Well, it sounds like you two have a really great friendship and a great partnership. We're going to be hopping into more of this conversation in just a second. So I want to welcome everyone to the stream. Today, we're going to be chatting about writing collaborations. What is the secret and what is the key and what's the process? I've never been in one, but like we were just talking about, both Rachel and Dawn have been doing this for 20 years. So we're going to be hopping right into it. Now, if you're watching on the replay, I got you covered. Time codes are going to be added at the end of the stream, so that way you can hop to the question that brings you the most value. And if you stick around, we're actually going to be doing a live reading from Rachel and Dawn's book. Let's see, I want to make sure I say it correctly, from Doppelgangers and Deceit. So they're going to be doing a live reading of it in just a little bit. And if you stick around till the end, we're going to be doing a live writing game. So if you want to come right with us, make sure you stay tuned till after the interview. All right, beautiful. And now I would like to officially introduce Rachel and Dawn back to the stage. Woo! Yes, nice to meet you. I always like to first off start by thanking all of my guests. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to come and sit down and chat with me.
You're welcome.
you're
I,
welcome.
I know it can always be such a process, especially because you guys are pumping out so many books. I'm like, I've seen the books that you guys have out, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Plus, you're probably trying to balance your lives. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yes, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Definitely.
And by the way, I just want to welcome Yvonne. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Penelope, thank you for hopping on. And WTC, welcome, my friend. Yeah, real life gets in the way. Well, thank you all for hopping into the podcast. So, we're going to be hopping right into it. Now, before we get into the heart of how to publish your book with a writing collaboration, Rachel and Dawn, why don't you both introduce yourselves? Just share a little bit about yourselves for the audience if they don't know who you are.
I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for let me see, probably about 12 years, and we've been writing together for 20 years. So, I'm a mom to one and a grandmother to three. So I'm a busy wife of 30 years. So pretty busy.
Aw.
Same thing when it comes to a lot of the things that we have gone through. We actually, I remember her going to school for being a nurse, and I remember all of the grandkids' births and stuff. So that was loads of fun. Also, the Hubs has been around me for 30 years, 31 years now. So we both have long-term craziness going on in our lives from them. And I've got 3 kids, no grandkids, but I consider like her kids. And her daughter even said like I'm like the crazy grandmother that's on the side.
The crazy grandmother. And I'm sure you two
Yeah.
must have gotten so close throughout this process. So that's really cool. That's really awesome. I'm curious, did you guys know each other before you started writing together?
No,
No.
we met online, and actually
Ooh.
we didn't even meet face to face until what, 3 years ago? Was it 3,
Yeah.
2, 3 years? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
We
So
really
you two
didn't.
knew each other for almost 15 years before you finally met each other in person.
Yes.
Oh my, that is so cool.
Things just never lined up.
And I think that's the great thing with technology, right? And the internet in this day and age, we can write with others. We can join these communities and these collaborations with almost anybody in the world. I continue to be impressed. That's so awesome. So I'm curious, I know you said you both met online. Can you kind of walk me through the process of it for a writer who might be wanting to find a collaboration, but maybe they don't have any friends in their life who are actually into writing? How did you guys find each other specifically? And do you have any strategies you would recommend to our audience?
Well, we met on group. We met in writing groups. There was
Okay.
we actually met. They had Yahoo groups, so
Okay.
we met in what they had Yahoo groups, and we were writing. They had the writing groups where you could do little Marvel groups, and
It was like fan fiction.
Yeah, fan fiction. So
Yeah.
we were writing
Ooh, okay.
fan fiction.
And then we set up a group that was actually not so much fan fiction, but it was based in a fantasy world that we came up with. And
Ooh, that's interesting. So was this like a forum type
Yes.
experience that you guys set up?
Yeah, back and forth. It was just posting on the forum, back and forth, and then it went to MSN, and then back to Yahoo, and we just stayed there. So you just have to reach out to the different places. I mean, just look
I
around.
think JSync has a bunch now. I'm not sure where else, but I know that since then there's fan fiction based stuff out there, but you just have to find a group setting instead of it's just you writing the fan fiction. You need to be able to get in with a forum so that other people can help collaborate with you, and that's how you learn your collaboration.
We were horrible at first.
Wait, you were bad at writing in the beginning?
Oh yeah.
Our writing has gotten better over the years.
Oh,
I was like, all right, let's hope that it's improved after 20 years.
Much better.
I know a lot of the times writers have very unrealistic expectations of my rough draft needs to be great. It needs to be at a certain level. And then when it doesn't hit that level, then they get down on themselves and they stop writing. So I totally understand that process. It's such a journey. And I could even speak to my own experience probably about 15, 20 years ago when I was also on the role-playing writing forums, and I absolutely loved that format. But that was I don't know if it's old school because writing forums are still relevant, but I know in the earlier ages of the internet where it was very much like you go here, you either pick one that's about a fan fiction or you pick one that's about a world that you create.
Right.
Did you guys create the world? So you said you created a world together, or did you create it together or separately, and then you created the forum from that world?
We pretty much kind of created it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we came up with
So
the
the world
idea
that
and shot it back together.
yeah, the world that we actually are writing about right now, we
Mm-hmm.
created for a forum, but it was still very vague. We just wanted something urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It was very vague at that point because I only think we wrote there for maybe 2 or 3 months before our partner in crime wound up getting his doctorate and going off for much better things. So,
Oh, so there was another writing partner. So there used to
yeah,
be 3 of you guys.
yeah. There is,
Ooh.
well, over the years, there's been multiples, but
There's been
Oh yeah,
multiple.
of
we're the 2
course.
that stuck together
Of course.
through all of it. But yeah, he went on and did that, and I mean, I can't blame him. I wouldn't want to come back and do RPGs and stuff either. But we decided to take our ideas and move
Mm-hmm.
them over into I guess at the time it was called just Pad or
Yeah.
something like
Um,
that, and it
Mhm.
later would become Google Docs where you could
Mhm.
collaborate.
Oh, okay. So pre Google Docs
Mhm.
Yeah.
type
Like
of software. Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
so that's what we do.
Int-
We share it. We put them on there and we can save it and we can add and shoot it back and forth, and that's where we collaborate.
Yeah, we used
We
to
send
even do it on Messenger. She had to remind me of that.
yeah.
We did. We used to do it on Messenger. That
So
was
when
tough.
when you guys were first like developing this, so I imagine in like the early days, so you guys had created this world, you had created a
Mhm.
forum out of it. Clearly, there were others with you. Was there a moment where you two were like, let's write a book together? Like this seems like fun, or maybe the strategy, or how did
More
that
her.
idea come to mind?
More her. I'm not that was not that was more her idea than mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to give her credit for that, not me.
Well, I've always wanted to write a book, and I've got tons of ideas. Who I mean, I'm thinking who doesn't when it comes to the authors that I know
Mm-hmm.
of. We've got notebooks or files saved here, there, and everywhere of ideas that we
Mm-hmm.
want to get accomplished. But um, yeah, when we were talking about it, we took this offline and we were just writing it for fun. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
hobby, and like she said before, the hubs got involved with it because there was a lot of time that I was spending doing that,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he was I always thought that he was upset with me because of the time that I was spending doing it. When he
Mm-hmm.
looked at me, he was like, "No, I'm mad because you don't have a book in Barnes and Noble yet." I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, come on, these are good stories that you guys are writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shared the heart breathings thing to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked into that so that I would at least see that there are other people who took that plunge
Mm.
and ran with it. So that's when I was like, "Hey, so what do you think about us taking our stories and doing this?" Turns out her husband
Aw.
was saying the same things.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like they're both trying to push you guys to be like, go have fun, go write a book together.
Yeah, mine's like, well, you're doing it anyways, so why not? He's like, why are you
Did
doing it just for yourself?
before you guys published your first book together, had you guys ever published books separately as individuals?
I'd only published articles, and
Okay.
that's pretty much it. I helped collaborate on an RPG
Okay.
book, and that's it.
Interesting. So I imagine that being in a successful writing collaboration has probably helped improve the process of writing and probably make it easier on both your lives. Is that true?
I'll let you answer that.
Well, I'm in the shadows, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still do what I do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's still just about this is for me. My writing is more my stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
It helps me. I won't say get away from reality, but for me, it's okay. So my rough days are here. This is
Mm-hmm.
how I, this is how I get my relaxation. I
Mm-hmm.
come home and this is how I get away from everything. So It doesn't
Aw.
change for me. So
And that was how I was for a really long time. Um, it's just been recently that I've been able to do the um, going at this full time and
Okay.
putting all the effort behind this. So, and it really started when he pushed me to go, hey, try this out,
Mhm.
see if this works for you too. So, um, yeah, does it make it easier when you collaborate? Yeah, it does because you've got someone there that you can throw your ideas at and they can give you real feedback. Like we trust each other to be honest. So,
Mhm.
if there's something that she doesn't like that my character does, then
Mhm.
she's going to be like, I don't know if your character would do that. You rethink that or and then same with me. It's like, I don't know if I like that scene. I'm not sure if that's how that character would go, and we'll go back and rewrite it. And other people might see that as work. We see it as fun. We're like, oh, let's see what happens if
Aw.
we do this, and
well, and I can see
Aw.
that. I mean, where other people would get upset and offended, we don't.
no.
We don't take offense. You know, where she can come in and say, "Hey, your character's doing this, and I don't think it would do this." I'm not going to take offense. I don't take it as an insult to me. She's just taking it as um, like a critique, like you would take a critique. That's what she's doing. She's just pointing out an obvious that I would probably come back later and see, but she's just
Mhm.
pointing it out where I would see it later on. So,
And
and
we
she,
have
I do the
worked
same
with
thing for her.
people. Yeah, we have worked with people that are the opposite of
Oh
that. So
yes.
you have to be
Oh, wow.
careful.
Okay.
When it comes to collaborations, you do have to
Mhm.
be careful. That's part of why when you asked that first question, it was like, okay, communication and trust.
Mhm. Okay.
Uh, because we're coming at it from a standpoint of let's make this better, the whole story. Let's
Mhm.
Mhm.
make the story the best it can be, and something that makes us feel good as writers. We like it, so
Mhm.
it's gonna give us that, I guess, that high in our minds of, hey, we did this. This is great. But some people we've worked with before have taken offense to um, having things thrown at them, like a situation thrown at them and stuff. And so you have to be careful and trust the person that you're writing with.
Mm. Yeah, I could totally understand that, especially when I see a lot of writers put their work out there in the world and they're afraid that like, oh, people are going to respond to it a different way. I think what I love is that because you guys have this built-in trust, it almost feels like you're able to maybe speed up or make the process a little bit more efficiently, both from the creative side of it and then both probably the editing and the development side of it. Because if something doesn't work, you have somebody there who's also knows the full story and is able to
Yes,
help you bring it to life. And I'm like, that's
agreed.
amazing. But I know for most of us who are on a solo writing journey or writing a book by ourselves, like we don't always have that same type of we don't all can always get that same type of feedback until it's done, till it's at a stage. And then a lot of time writers have to pay for
Hmm.
that type of feedback, right? Once a book's done, then for the average writer who wants feedback, maybe if they're not part of a writers group, then they have to pay for an alpha or beta reader.
Right.
Maybe they can get one for free. They have to pay for editing. Now, I'm sure you guys probably still have to go through that process. What I
Yes.
want to do is I actually kind of want to dig into this process just a little bit because I'm really fascinated by this and like what is like the step-by-step process when you guys first come up with an idea? How does this how does this usually look for you guys when at the very beginning of developing a book?
Well, for us, when it started is we actually just start with couple of characters and
Mhm.
we throw a curveball at each other. Like
Ooh,
we'll
and
come up
I like
with
to say I've aptly called this the character method.
so we'll
I
we'll throw
approve.
out like with Doppelgangers Deceit,
Mhm.
we just threw out this problem, the doppelgangers. So we came up
Mhm.
with the problem. Then
Okay.
all of a sudden we had all the characters, and this was what was happening. So then we suddenly built the characters around the problem, and we kind of fleshed
Okay.
the characters around the problem instead of coming up with the plot and then building up. We kind of built the problem and then built everything around the problem first. So that's what we do. Everybody else doesn't do it that way, but we
No,
kind
other
of are
people do
backwards.
outlines and stuff. So
We're backwards.
they're more
So,
organized than we are, I suppose.
yeah.
But I've also come across things called intuitive writing and stuff like that made me realize that we're not the only ones that are capable of doing this. So yeah, we just went character driven, and we had these ideas, and we just kept building and building and building. That's what I tell people about us coming up with the prequel series too, is we had these, now we have these characters, but they're reacting to each other in a certain way. We're not sure why they're reacting to each other this way. That's how we wound up with Sebastian and Sidious having a background, because here are these two characters and their animosity to each other is palpable in the chapter. And so we're just like, I wonder what happened between these two that makes them they can't stand to be in the same room with each other for long. And so we went backwards from there.
Interesting. I really love that. I love that you guys start off with the problem first, the problem that needs to be solved. Whether it sounds like you guys start off with antagonists and obstacles, which is a really clever way to start a storytelling process. And I know like every writer has a little bit of a different method that they go about when developing stories. I think about my own process, and I think I usually start off with a theme, an idea, or a protagonist. I'm very fascinated because it probably gives an easier framework as you're kind of working backwards through the process of like, okay, where's the problem? Then all the events have to work around the problem. The world has to support the problem.
Right.
I absolutely love this. So then as you two are working together on this, does all this happen over like phone conversations? Are you guys like on the phone chatting, or is this all through like Messenger? You guys are like, all right, let's like outlining this step by step.
We don't even outline. We just go from point of view to point of view, which can make editing murderous sometimes. But yeah, it was a point
I like
of
the
view
term is
kind of
murderous.
thing. It's just we were writing it as though we were in the scene. So
it's almost like a movie. When you think of a movie, a director, looking at it in a scene, they're going in and they're going, okay, here's the person. We're going to boot this. That's how we do it. We're just going in and we're not actually even writing on, we're not messaging each other on the side or nothing. We're just writing in the scene. That's all we're doing. We're just back and forth on the pad writing down the scene. So
I love that. And is that like so you guys are writing in the scene, so you guys basically probably come up with the core, sounds like the core antagonist and the concept, and then are you essentially like kind of treating it like a forum experience, so to speak, of like, all right, we got these characters, let's just see what comes.
Right, that's exactly what we did.
And then we go back if we have to go back, and we say, okay, look, this really didn't fit, this really didn't work, let's go back a little bit, and we go back up and we go back and rework a scene, because we've had to rework a scene numerous times to make it fit right and make it sound right. Then we'll do it,
So when you guys are, and I had to show WTC's comments, they cracked me
being
up.
silly.
It was Sebastian's glittering vampire looks. He sparkled too much for Senius. Wow. Speaking of the book, so I want to dig into this process a little bit more, but I think now is the perfect opportunity. Why don't we do the live reading? So for those of you who are here in the audience and you're here watching this with us, we're going to actually be doing a live reading. Rachel and Dawn are going to read through an excerpt of the first book of their series, Doppelgangers and Deceit. It's like, make sure I say it correctly. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up on the screen. I'll drop myself. Ooh, that's not pretty. All right, let me pull up the right one. And perfect. There we go. I'm like looking a little better there. Awesome. So this is an excerpt out of their book, Doppelgangers and Deceit. And this is the book 1 of the series, right? And which series is this exactly?
This is the Dragon Tasker series,
The Dragon Tasker series.
the urban fantasy version.
Ooh. So for anybody who doesn't know anything about the book or hasn't read it before, can you just give a little like what's like the blurb? What's the book about?
The book is about a dragon shifter. I think most people understand what a dragon shifter is, hopefully. But it's a dragon shifter.
Just to clarify, is that somebody, is that like a human who can shift into a dragon?
Yes,
That's
he's
actually
a dragon
that can shift into a human. So
yes,
opposite way.
Well, hey, I love dragons, so I'm all for it.
So he's a dragon that can shift into a human.
Mhm.
And he's now working for Crimson, which is the organization that polices and
Mhm.
is also the law kind of like Law and Order. It would be both sides of it in this one group.
Mhm.
So he works for this organization that polices supernaturals. The twist is he's also a dragon, which means that he is hunted by this same group. So he's hiding in plain sight, so to speak, within this group.
Because
Ooh.
dragons are outlawed.
Dragons are outlawed. They're too dangerous.
Oh no, dragons
Yeah.
can't be outlawed. They're too cool.
So are
Oh my goodness.
doppelgangers
Okay, I'm
at this
hooked.
point.
I'm
Doppelgangers are
I'm
outlawed
hooked.
too.
So
And you said what? Who else is outlawed?
doppelgangers.
Doppelganger. All right,
Because they
the
can become
title's starting to
anybody.
make sense now. All right, beautiful. What I'll do is I have it here on the screen. I'll let you two hop into the reading and we'll go from there. This is an excerpt from book 1 of Doppelgangers and Deceit.
Gabriel had noticed the way Ava's gaze had lingered over the books he'd left on his desk. He was almost positive she knew more than she let on, but the most important subject was not dragons anymore. Not since his client had reported seeing the doppelgangers. The idea frightened Gabriel, being taken and someone replacing you.
How many doppelgangers had taken human lives already? Had this one not made a mistake, shining a light on the other odd deaths or murders in recent months, no one would have thought about it. Gabriel placed the notebooks in his briefcase at the desk. He stacked the other paperwork neatly and then placed them in a file. The counselor thought back over the unusual amount of missing persons reports in Whitley. For a college town, the possibilities were deadly. Students could go missing for weeks before they were reported.
The vibration of his phone knocked him out of those dark thoughts. Regarding the device, Gabriel sighed heavily. J.M. Rodine was on the screen. It's about time. What use is having the tasker assigned to me if he never responds? I've been trying to get hold of you for 2 days, he was quick to admonish.
The tasker was on assignment. This tasker was on assignment for someone on a higher pay grade than you, Counselor Kennedy. Gabriel could hear ice and sloshing liquid. Take my absence up with him.
Apparently the director is too busy to be bothered, and you're my tasker, not his. Gabriel heard a grunt and the sound of liquid being poured from the other end of the call. Are you drinking, John Michel? Gabriel flattened the palm of his free hand on the desk while he waited.
Yes. If you had a day like mine, you'd be drinking too.
No, I would do my duty. Gabriel heard a release of air from the other side of the call. Sorry to be so boring, but there are things to do besides getting drunk. There may be lives on the line.
There are always lives on the line with you lot. You should take that stick out of your ass and pour your own drink, the tasker chuckled.
Gabriel's eyes glared down at the phone he had just pulled from his face. Why does this man always get his goat? He took a deep breath, swallowed, and continued. In case you were blissfully unaware, there's an emergency happening here. I'm trying to save people from a horrible death.
Let me guess, human lives?
Well, yes, but perhaps I'm trying to save supernatural lives as well. Who knows why doppelgangers are doing what they're doing. So, Gabriel took another pronounced breath. I'm trying to find them, and for that I need a tasker who is available to me and not drunk. If it were any other person.
Oh, come on, Gabriel. Surely you don't think the Council and Crimson are here for supernatural benefit. Jean-Michel took another drink.
They stated in the vows and pledge of duty.
Fuck that. I want your opinion, not some fucking vow. The tasker growled from somewhere close to his soul. Stop hiding behind someone else's words and empty promises.
Gabriel's voice caught. Large brown eyes waited, trying to overcome the sudden catch in his throat and his chest. There was a flash of memory, a sleeker, younger version of his tasker using that voice while arguing with his father. The counselor could feel the anger and the tension in the room that day years ago, and he swore to himself he'd just felt it again. After all, Jean-Michel had been the tasker assigned to several human counselors over the years, all Kennedys. He was definitely not human, though Crimson listed him as such. Perhaps human magi? They had longer lives. No, he knew better. His eyes moved to the books about dragons, still on his desk. He swallowed.
Crimson just wants supernaturals cleaned up and out of sight, the tasker scoffed. Humans who know about supernaturals, they want to become them or wipe them from the face of the earth out of jealousy. So which are you?
You are drunk. Gabriel spoke with measured patience. You know how I feel about drinking and being drunk.
Why are the rules all made about you creatures? Humans don't even treat one another properly. Consider all these murders and wars. You use one another and us. Skinner's a fine example. Using Crimson to herd supernaturals and keep them under control. We're not the ones out of control.
That's news to me, considering I just got a report of a doppelganger in Whitley taking the life of a human, becoming him. Supernaturals have to have the upper hand. We are here to keep a balance. Taskers, Crimson, and the Council are about balance. This wasn't the time for a philosophical discussion. He cleared his throat and calmed his voice. Jean-Michel, I need you to come back here. The supernaturals in question are killing humans, replacing them and wreaking havoc on other people's lives. Gabriel's hand was popping his thumb against his thigh when Ava walked back in.
Yeah, well, I'll get right back on that.
Rodine, Gabriel shouted the tasker's last name, as if that would better get his attention, but the call had ended before he'd even finished the second syllable. He stared down at the phone. Where had that much venom come from? Why the sudden indignation? They had both taken vows, had they not?
No matter how upset or annoyed he was with Jean-Michel Rodin, the tasker had made a valid point. It was something to think about. Just, it hardly seemed the time.
I absolutely love that. I think that was very, very cool. Awesome. So like, wow. First off, thank you so much for reading that. I was laughing half the time. I'm like, wow, there was some like really, really great quotes. I loved the dialogue, and I'm very intrigued by the tasker and this type of world, and especially like the play on the alcoholism and the alcoholic. I'm like, wow, that's some really interesting character dynamics you guys have going on there.
We actually do a lot of realistic problems with our characters. So we keep them real. We don't make fairy tales. We don't have the happily ever after very often. So we keep them real. So they all have real problems. So
They all have real scars. So
Mhm.
that to me is relatable, even though they are supernatural characters.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's something that most people can relate with on a human level, right? With most of us having scars that we have to overcome or deal with.
Right.
Uh, wow. I'm curious, how did you guys come up with the idea for this first book?
Hmm. I think it was just when she was going through all of our, because we had 20 years of writing,
Mm-hmm.
and she was trying to decide which of our stuff would be the better stuff for our first book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when she was going through it, this was the one that stood out most. We had the most on this one with the doppelgangers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had worked a lot on this plot at the first, and we did a lot with the doppelgangers, and when we were playing around with them, we we played around with them a lot. So I think that's why she was like, yeah, let's do our first book on that. So
It also
Well,
illustrated the world better.
mhm,
Like it in in further stories that we had written, it
mhm,
was too broad. We have actually two
mm,
main worlds. One is more of
okay.
a fantasy world versus where magic and like steampunk and things like that are used.
Mhm,
And then this is the sister world to that, which is kind of like our world, but with a
mhm,
twist. And this really, really shined a light onto um, our world so that it
mhm,
could introduce our audience to get them involved with the politics and the
mm.
corruption and everything that has to do with what's going on in this world and before blowing their minds with the other world.
Oh my goodness. Well, I absolutely love the excerpt. I would definitely buy a copy. That was great. Especially with those types of themes. And I mean, you guys probably had me hooked at the dragons part, so I'm definitely an eager reader. For those of you who are watching this, if you want to purchase a copy of Doppelgangers in Deceit, it's available now. When did you guys launch this? When did this book release?
This was back in 2022 was the first release
Okay.
of it.
Okay, perfect. So Doppelgangers and Deceit is available to purchase now on Amazon. If you want to go check out a copy, the link to their website, it's at Rachel's website. It's Rachel D. Adams. Make sure that I got that. There we go. Rachel D. Adams. I will drop it in the comments as well. And then it's also down in the YouTube video description. So if you want to go purchase a copy, go over to the website, check it out. And there's links to everything that's being worked on in addition to the other books. And then is that the only book out? There's more books out in the series right now, isn't there?
yes.
We have book 2, Pacts and Portals, which
Mhm.
focuses one of the plots in the book is focused on the other world. So it
Okay.
introduces you to the Lycans
Ooh,
world and culture, their
yes.
society, along
I
while
got that. I need my
continuing the main
werewolves.
plot.
Mhm,
You've got the main plot, which is Gabriel and Cineas, or Jean Michel is his
mhm,
alias, working through their problems and through the dragon issue.
mhm,
But the smaller plots are the doppelgangers. And then
mhm.
we go to the Lycans, which is Pax and Portal. And the next book that we're hopefully going to have out by October is focused on the demons that are involved.
Ooh, okay.
And then the next book will be vampires and vendettas. And then the ending book for the main series is going to be dragons and dreams.
Wow. So we got dragons, we got lichens, we got vampires. I feel like we're getting the whole mix of supernatural, kind of like
Mhm.
supernatural slash fantasy, because
Mhm.
dragons tend to be more in the fantasy genre. I love what you guys are doing with that world, and I think it's incredible. So definitely make sure if you're here in the stream or you're watching this on the replay, go check out the book. Sounds like book 3 is going to be released soon. You said in October.
Yes.
So definitely go check it out. That is awesome. And if you're here in the stream right now and you're finding any value from this, follow and subscribe. We got more writing things. I'm here with daily writing streams, and I always love to bring back and chat with different guests. Rachel and Dawn here are awesome. And I want to get back into the conversation of the writing collaboration process of this. So we were talking about developing the process of what you two do when you're developing the characters and the world for it. When you kind of go back and forth and like, all right, we'll get the characters, we'll go back and forth, kind of like a role playing forum experience, and then we go from there. So once you guys have enough of the scenes worked out, once you've gone through a lot of the writing process, you probably have a lot of the story fleshed out. What's next? How do you guys work together to get it to the end of the rough draft, get it to a second, and what does like that process look like to get it to the published to that next step?
The first thing, once we have all of the scenes in order that we
Mm-hmm.
think they're in order, I'll run everything through Pro Writing Aid and try to capture anything that is obvious that needs to be worked on.
Okay.
And the next thing that I do once we together have because we're working on it together at the same time.
Mhm.
Used to it was, hey, let me pass it to her and then she passed it to me, but now it's all at the same time, so it takes a
Mhm.
lot of work out of that.
Okay.
Since we can both look at each other now and go, hey, I think we're done with this, then I can get an alpha reader involved, a set of alpha readers involved.
Mhm.
They give me feedback, and we then go through the process of either eliminating stuff that they didn't like, or changing it, or we decide, we like it, we're going to leave it.
Mm.
I think this is a winner, we're not going to change this. Once we get past that part, then we go through and we do another full draft edit, I suppose is what you call it. And then we find beta readers, and we've got
Okay.
several who are loyal beta readers, and I think they volunteered from the very beginning, actually. So
Interesting. So you almost like build up a hype with your writing communities, it
mhm,
sounds like.
Right.
yeah,
Do you find that the process goes a little faster or maybe more efficiently since there's two of you working on it?
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I had to do all of this and make all the decisions myself without running it past her, oof, we might get stuck in several places.
Oh, I love that. So you guys will take it through the alpha and the beta readers. And then do you take it through the editing process or through an editor after that?
Yes, the first book went through an editor.
Okay.
Then the second book did not,
Okay.
but we went over it with a fine tooth comb. I'm sure there's probably mistakes and stuff, but we try to do our best. Uh,
Mhm.
then, and of course, we've also got these programs. Like I said, I just purchased another suite to help out with that, to help me
Mhm.
with the editing and the revisions and stuff.
Mhm.
And it helps out too that we have other authors and even educators that are in our writing groups that are willing
Okay.
to beta read for us. So they catch
Okay.
a lot of stuff. And that was one thing that I would definitely suggest for anybody that's starting this journey is get into writing groups, network, go on author tube,
Yes.
Yes.
meet people,
Yes.
because you wouldn't
Agreed. Mhm.
believe how much money we have saved and how much insight we have gotten from people who've been there, done that, or they're into education, so they know all the rules and they're up to date on all the rules. Because my education stopped when it came to writing and stuff a while back. So it's like, okay, well, the last paper I wrote was a long time ago. You guys tell me what's the new rule for this and what's the new rule for that. Yeah, they've been so helpful. The first time that I went through a beta read, after a beta read, and I saw all of those marks, and I was like, "Oh no, this is going to be horrible." No, she was
Oh
just
no.
catching things. She was just catching things. She's like, "Oh, well, you missed a comma here. You missed this here. You missed that there." Or I don't know if you meant to do this, but this looks, and some of them were compliments. So that I was like,
Okay.
"Thank you. I live for the compliments every once in a while. Yay." So,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it was
Well, yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's great. I agree, right? With how much time and effort and energy you can save by being a part of an active writers group,
Mhm.
whether that's in person or whether that's an online experience, that is incredible. Is so once you guys have taken it through, once it's edited and you guys like, all right, we have a book here. How do you successfully let's see, where did I put that? How do you successfully go about publishing the book as like a writing collaboration? Does that process look a little different? And then where do you go from there?
Well, at that point, that's where I pretty much take over,
Okay.
because I
Okay.
took the courses and I got the applications, and I use Atticus for my formatting.
Okay.
And I mean, there are others out there, Vellum and some of the others that people use a lot.
Hmm.
Some people are talented enough that they can actually just use Word and go for it, which I've never been that person. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get an application and do it. I
Okay.
format it. I make sure everything works out. And then we decided to go wide instead of just through Amazon. We we talked to each other about that, what which company seemed best and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we did do that part together, but when it comes to uploading the book and doing all that kind of stuff, that's a me thing. So I
Gotcha.
do
Okay.
that because
Awesome.
Dawn is full-time nurse, and or at least
Mm,
until recently full-time,
Mhm.
and
oh, Dawn,
would
that's
never have
incredible.
had that
That's
amount of
incredible, by the
time.
way.
And she's been able to actually participate in a lot of this, was just been like, yay, I'm so glad you're able to go.
Yay. Oh, well, I absolutely love that. So then you have the book published, you have it uploaded, and it sounds like you go the self-publishing route through
Mhm.
publishing through Amazon.
Yes,
Um,
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and I only uploaded one to Google Play. Didn't get I keep track of the sales and stuff, and
mhm,
there wasn't a lot when it came to Google Play, so I haven't really focused on that. And
okay.
then we went to Draft to Digital, which actually handles all of the rest, including library access and stuff.
Interesting. Okay. So okay, so there's a couple of different avenues there, which that's incredible. So then once the book is out there, I don't know if this process differs, but how do you successfully advertise this book now that it's as a writing collaboration? Does the advertising process or maybe the marketing process, does this change a little bit since it's written by the two of you as compared to a standalone author?
When it comes to the collaboration side of the advertising, it's more or less both of us just putting it out there and making
Mhm,
sure that we go to things like this or events
mhm,
whenever we can. We both have to sign those books, so
mhm.
we have come up with a system for that, where we make book plates, and because
Aw,
we live so far apart, like I'll sign a bunch
mhm.
of book plates, send them to her, and she'll sign a bunch of book plates and send them to me so that we can put
Okay,
them in the physical copies of the books.
that makes
Uh,
sense.
the first set we did the hard way, but we knew that she was going to be here, so there wasn't going to be a shipping cost involved
Hmm.
with that. But yeah, otherwise, that's how we do it. When it comes to events, we just plan ahead when it comes to that.
Hmm.
The advertising online, I haven't gone crazy with advertising, because the
Hmm.
way I look at it is I want my entire series to be done before I go wild with advertising. So I've been
Gotcha.
finding
Okay.
promotional groups,
Hmm.
and I've been building my newsletter list.
Hmm.
Most of it goes under my name because it's just easier that way.
Okay.
But she has a page in my website, and she's always included with everything. So
Okay.
that's how we've had to do it so far. Now, if Dawn comes up and has like a memoir written, which is going to be amazing if she does that, because her life is just then like I'm so willing to help her with her website and getting everything
Aw.
established for that too, because that'd be great.
Aw. So it sounds like, Dawn, there's a memoir in your future.
Yes.
Like, I don't have
Yeah.
the time for that. I'm too busy trying to save lives, Dawn. Aw, well, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Do you guys find that, or maybe Rachel, do you find that advertising as a writing duo, writing collaboration, do you think that attracts a different type of readership, or do readers respond differently since there's two of you writing together?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it's the same. What do you think, Dawn? I
I
mean,
don't. I don't think that people. Actually, whenever we did because we went to um, what was it,
a Ren Fair.
a Ren fair, and
Okay.
we had a lot of people come up, and we talked to a lot of authors there, and no, everybody pretty much we had the same reaction that everybody else would get. I mean, it was, you know, I think actually we had a lot of surprised people,
Hmm.
kind of like you. They were surprised that we would co-author. So
Hmm.
I think I think that surprises a lot of people. But I mean,
Hmm.
but yeah, other than that, no. I mean, as far as the advertising and stuff, I don't think we draw any different than anything else. No.
Okay.
It's all really all based on genre.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it
It's just the
genres and
yeah.
tropes and things like that. As
Hmm.
long as you're focused on that, they tend not to care
Mm.
if it's
They're
too long.
they're more focused on the story, which
Yes.
makes
Mhm.
sense. Okay.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
did
Thank
notice
you.
that. They were really focused on, they were really upset that our most recent book was not with us when we were there.
Yes.
So they
It
were
didn't
more
get to
upset
us in
about that.
time.
Wait,
Yeah.
what happened?
We didn't get the delivery of our latest prequel novel in time for the Ren Fair. So people
Aw.
saw on our banner this
Mhm.
beautiful book cover, and
No.
they're like, "What about the vampire one?" And I'm like,
You guys are like
"We don't
coming
have
to a
it.
store near you.
Take a card.
Yeah, it's you have to order it
It'll be there."
online.
It was
It didn't
also
come
a
out
very
on
big
time.
surprise. Yeah, it was a very big surprise for me that people, once they realized there was a series, they wanted to buy the whole series.
Yeah,
So it was kind of a
Interesting.
blessing
it was a
for
good
me.
draw.
I've heard from a lot of authors that a lot of the times readers care more about less than just a standalone book of like book
Right.
one of a series. That readers want an actual series so they can go through the whole experience.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So
Well, I want to take this opportunity to hop into a Q&A. So I want to open this up to the audience. If you're here in the live stream, do you have any questions for Rachel and Dawn about the writing collaboration process? Drop them down in the comments right now, and I'd be happy to throw them up on the screen. All right, so I'm going to drop that. And actually, I have a really good question for you. So a little less on the collaboration side, but when you guys think about yourselves as your writers' journeys, do you have one piece of advice for writers who want to advance their craft?
my advice would be to go with your gut instinct. I mean,
Okay.
you hear a lot of people say, um, you know, you go with what's popular, or you see everything that's on the TV and everything. But if you think you want to write what's in your head, then go with it. Because we wrote with what we wanted to write. We didn't write
Mm,
what's all over TV and everything else. We wanted to write what we wanted to write, not what everyone else wanted us to write. So
okay.
We made kind of a mistake, which is why we
yeah,
had to redo
and that's why I
our
say that.
first book, because we left out the steamy spicy scene in the book.
Oh no. Oh no. I
Because
mean, you can't read the book without the steamy, spicy scene.
exactly. So we did that, and
Mhm.
it was because of peer pressure, and we had already written the scene. We knew what the scene was, but
Mhm.
we didn't leave it in the book, and so we went back and we added it later because people were like, "So you built us up.
But then you
We
left.
need the scene."
Oh no! So you guys
Cut
had
it
this.
out.
This was in the original draft, but then you guys took it out because
Yes.
of was it because of like feedback, or you guys saw comments, or you guys trying to cater
Both.
to a readership?
We were also trying to cater to what we thought was our readership, and it turns out that we were
Okay.
incorrect. So
Okay.
yeah,
And clearly, your readership probably spoke out and said something. It sounds
they
like.
did. They did. They were like, "Wait a minute, this is not. It's not YA. Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Interesting. So then,
Uh,
are readers expecting a little spice in book 3?
Yes.
I think
But
we've
they
had a
don't.
little bit of spice in every book, haven't we?
Okay.
I think so. I think so.
Ever
At
since
least a
then,
little.
lessons learned.
Because if we cut it out, we get in trouble.
All right. So from every book moving forward, you're no longer allowed to cut out the spice, according to
Yes.
your readership.
Yes.
And I think this is a great example of trying to be authentic to the story you want to tell, of course, but then you also have to balance that with what your
Right.
readership wants. I think it's always a balancing
It's a
act,
balance.
right? And
Mhm.
clearly,
We just didn't want. I think part of my problem was I didn't want it to get mistaken for a different genre or
Mhm.
subgenre of paranormal romance.
Mhm.
We don't focus on the sexual nature as much as we focus on the plot. And I was worried that the opposite problem was going to happen, that people would expect one thing and we deliver the other and they'd be upset, when actually they're like, we love the plot. It's not that we don't love the plot. but we really got invested in this romance and we really want to see something happen on screen. So that was why I was like, okay, well then we'll sprinkle some of that in there over the plot. How about that? You know, or with
They're
the
like,
plot.
absolutely nothing
Still give the
happened.
readers what they
Yeah.
want. They
Yes.
want some dragon
Because
on lycanthrope action.
yes, this is theirs. And you
Yeah.
have to remember, it's like, yes, write something that makes you happy. And that did make me happy. And then I went back and thought, oh, well, they may not be happy with that. No, they were happy with that. I am my main audience. So I need to remember that. You're writing to the audience, but don't think your audience is something that it's not. Know your audience.
Interesting. So and this is just something I'm curious about. Do you feel like your audience or your readership gets more involved in kind of like the feedback process, so to speak, the further you're getting into the series?
Oh yeah.
I do.
I think so.
Yes. They do. They get very vested. Very vested.
Aw. Oh, well, I absolutely love that. Have you drawn a lot of your audience through the let me rephrase. Have you attracted a lot of your audience through Amazon, through Barnes and Noble, through those publishing, through that avenue, or are you attracting a lot more through maybe your writing groups, social media? What's been kind of like the key to that success to finding your readership?
I feel like I've seen a lot come through recommendations from other readers and through social media too. We or at least we try to find the groups in the places that people hang out that like this kind of writing, and I happen to be a fan, so I've read others and can recommend stuff. And also, so I'm both a reader and an author, and I can be part of these groups. And then we talk about when somebody needs a recommendation and my book fits. I'm like, yo, Dawn and I have this book over here that you might like. You know, don't be shy about saying something when your book fits. Just don't be overly, pushy about it. Yeah. The words, pushy. Don't be overly pushy about it. But yeah, I think that a lot of it has come from that and from focusing on who my newsletter goes to as well.
Okay.
So the newsletter, it has all of our stuff in it, but I've become part of promos using that newsletter that are focused on urban fantasy, paranormal romance, LGBTQ fiction, things like that, because our group of characters are diverse. So it kind of fits in a lot of the subgenres.
Okay.
And
interesting.
I do know that that Amazon has recommended ours to quite a few. So because I have heard it through the grapevine, like from friends and friends' mothers and stuff. I had your book recommended to me and whatnot. So
that must feel like very validating, right? You're like, oh wow,
yes.
Amazon's actually pushing my stuff. That's great.
Yes. So it was good. It felt good.
Aw. Well, that is absolutely amazing. It looks like we have a really good question here from LeMay. Hi, any advice on how to clean up the rough draft of a first book? Should I proofread it backwards?
Oh, I would. My brain wouldn't do that. So for me, cleaning up the rough draft is more or less what you see behind me. I put up the axe on a board and then put cards. I've got magnetic cards back there. You can do it any way you want to do it. Some people use sticky notes. Some people just use like a book, but I'm a very visual person. So I want to be able to move them around. And so I've got my rough draft there and I write down all of the scenes, like chapter heads or whatever. And then I move them around the way I want them. Then when it comes to actually going back through and doing it, even, further, it would be a matter of reading it out loud to myself. If I'm reading it out loud, and I start to tumble over words, stumble them, anything like that, then something something might be wrong there. And then that way I can go back through and handle that. Otherwise, it's just regular editing applications and stuff that I use.
That's some really great advice. Thank you for that. Dawn, do you have any recommendations from your creative
Well, I
approach?
know she uses the whiteboard, and she will take pictures of that and send it to me, and she'll ask me, if I have anything to add to it. So we use the whiteboard a lot. So that comes in handy.
I approve. I use whiteboards for everything, so I love it.
So
that would be
we also share the Google Doc, and we have
Mhm.
the list of scenes on one side of that Google Doc, and so we're going through, we're kind of editing each other's stuff, and we'll leave each other notes. Hey, do you think this might actually fit better between these two scenes? Do you
Okay.
think this might fit better further down? So we talk to each other that way, and then just on Discord too, commenting back and forth about it.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys, the two of you, have a really good process with each other. And then LeMay, I know that I can speak to, like, once you've gone through the first probably couple of drafts, and once you've gone through your own editing process, whether that's reading it out loud or just going chapter by chapter, then the next step would be alpha and beta readers.
Yeah.
Get somebody else's eyes on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've never
But I
tried
always have to
backwards.
make this distinction.
Yeah.
Somebody else's eyes, that is not your mom. That
Right.
is not your mom or your
Yes.
dad. That is not a best friend. You need
Somebody outside of the
advice
box.
from somebody who's not going to try to be nice to you, right? So that way you can make the best story possible.
Right.
Absolutely.
And please understand the difference between critique and being, getting you done. I understand it's your book baby, but the more things that I see somebody has picked out on my beta reads or alpha reads that they feel is wrong, that's making my book better. So
They're not being mean to you.
Yeah, they're not being mean to you. They're trying to point stuff out. So don't get upset with them or with yourself at all.
Yeah, it's just, and that's like I was saying earlier, it's not, I don't take it personally when she points out something to me. It's just, it's okay. She's saying it so that I can fix something. That's the way I look at it. Oh, I just need to fix it. I'm not taking it personal. It's just something I need to go back
Vice
and fix.
versa.
Agreed. I'm of the mindset that all feedback is good feedback as long as it is communicated in a way that is kind. That's how I always try to frame it, right? But the great thing is, we as writers, we get to choose what feedback we want. Just because somebody tells us something doesn't mean it's true. It's their truth. But as the writers, we get to choose what works and what doesn't. So it's our worlds.
Exactly.
So I always try to set that distinction. But thank you guys for sharing that. That was awesome. And LeMay, if you're looking for an alpha beta reader, I actually just started offering alpha beta reading services. So let me know if you need alpha or beta reader. Awesome. And then with that being said, Mary put up a really great comment here. She's saying every artist gets feedback. Even the best and funniest comics get hecklers. That's the truth.
It's the truth.
I had this I have this mindset that there's going to be people who are going to love your book and people who are going to hate your book because it's just not their cup of tea, or maybe they're projecting or for whatever reason. But I am of the mindset, if you make people feel something about your book, like I actually think that's a good thing, regardless of the emotion. Of course, we want everyone to love it. I hope everyone loves my book, but I don't know. I'm of the mindset, get them to feel something, and I call that success.
Well, you're not always going to have people that love it, so it's not. It's just not going to happen.
I just saw the Hub's comment. He's saying that because I did have someone that decided to read my book, and in case you weren't aware, Gabriel and Jean-Michel wind up in a relationship, but
oh no,
I had a reader that weren't they weren't exactly
an LGBT.
Yes. So it's like, please make sure that the people that are signing up for your book actually want to read your book.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think this is this distinction I always try to make, because as I'm sure both of you know, and anyone who's here in the audience, I do story readings and critiques every Saturday on this stream. And I get readers, or I get stories submitted. I've probably done over 150 stories in 6 months. I get stories from all different types of genres, and not every genre is my cup of tea, right? There's some genres like I'm fantasy, sci-fi. Sometimes I get some nonfiction, I get memoir. And that's not to say that I don't like those types, but it's not what I would gravitate towards. And I think when you're going for a critic, a critique, or a reader, I think you need to clarify what your expectations are as both a writer, and then the reader needs to clarify, like, hey, this isn't my cup of tea, but I feel that I can still offer this insight with that knowledge.
Right.
Once again, it goes back to what we started off at the very beginning: communication.
Communication is key.
Oh, man. Well, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you both for sharing your advice. I think that's really going to help our writers out in the community as we're looking forward towards what's next. I know you mentioned your book. The book 3 is coming out in October. Is there anything else that you two are working on that our readership and that our audience can look forward to?
Well, we have the prequel that we're working on as well. So, I mean,
you said what? You said a prequel?
Yeah, we have another book to the prequel that we're working on.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're always working on books for it. So,
the true writers.
We have stories to Reem. She's always adding to the Reem stories. So, we're always working on stuff.
Yeah, we decided that we wanted to do some sort of. Well, we played around with Vella for a while on Amazon. And with the changes there, I took pretty much everything down from Vella and found a subscription for writers that is called Ream Stories. And so I went ahead and I started putting some of our companion stories there because we have so many stories, to share that I was just trying to find something that would keep our focus on, hey, let's keep going with this particular story. So now we've got 6 now?
I think so.
6 companion stories that are on a subscription service through Ream. And we offer a part of them for free that you can look over and give commentary on, which is kind of a pre-beta read when you think about it.
That's interesting. That's fascinating.
And then we also are working on, like she said, that prequel. I think that we're going to get done with the prequel series before we finish the main series. But it just was born out of, we wanted to do the backstories. And so they're smaller novels, but they are full novels. And we are working on the 3rd one, which I think is going to be the last one. And then we're going to do a smaller story, which is going to be the new reader magnet.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that sounds really great. For anyone here who's in the live stream, or if you're watching this on the replay, if you want to know more about what Rachel and Dawn are working on, once again, the website is go to racheldadams.com. The links are down in the YouTube description down below. I know you also mentioned Ream, and then I think you also mentioned Substack as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Because of my progress through becoming an author, an author tuber, and going into all of the nooks and crannies of self-publishing, I decided to open a Substack called Aggressively Helpful Writing Advice.
Ooh, I love that. I think that's what everybody probably needs.
Well, it's just that it seemed to me that everybody was promoting kind of a sugar-coated, candy-coated version of, hey, this is what you can do, and this is what it looks like, and this is the perfect world. And I'm like, no, I've had my books paused, and I've had emails back and forth between me and Amazon because we couldn't agree on size and we couldn't agree on things, and it made things go off the walls. And then we've also had health issues pop up, and what does that look like from a writer standpoint? Because you want to stay on schedule, but your health comes first. So, there's just like a lot that goes into it that people may not understand, down to just simple advice like, hey, maybe you should take an umbrella with you and make sure you have your water bottle ready when you go to an event, because you never know what you're going to run into.
Yes.
Things like that, that I put on the Substack. As I encounter things, I'm like, okay, let me share this with my writer friends.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like a more inside look on what this like journey, this part of the journey kind of looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love that. And if any of you want to go check that out, those links are down in the YouTube video description down below. So definitely go check that out. They're all down below. And as we're wrapping up the podcast, so we're going to actually be hopping into the live writing game next. But before we do that, I always have one final question. I have to ask all my guests.
One of my favorites.
So I always have one final question I have to ask all my guests. If tomorrow was your last chapter in the book of life, you both got hit by a car tomorrow, what is one quote that you would want to leave the writers of the world with?
Does it have to be our quote, or is it something that we...
It can be whatever comes to mind. If there's anything that you would want to leave the writing communities to either remember you by, or any learnings that you've learned from your journey throughout your writing journey.
I would say to make sure that you do everything that you want to do, and that you don't regret, that you live your best, that you don't regret anything. So that would be my thing. I try not to regret.
I absolutely love that. Do everything you want to do and don't regret anything. I love that.
Mine kind of plays off of Emerson. If you've already become happy and you've helped make somebody else happy, you've already succeeded. Everything else is just the whip topping on the top of the ice cream. So make sure that you make yourself happy and that you're helping others get happiness.
Oh, if you've already become happy and you've made someone else happy, you've succeeded with the whipped cream and all that like goodness on the top. Well, I think those are both really great comments. Thank you so much for that. As we hop forward, oh my God, I had to. We have some funny ones from our community here. We had WTC is make sure your life insurance is paid up. Okay.
He lives with me, so he needs to make sure the life insurance is paid up.
You hear that? You better make sure it's paid up. And then we also have, like the pirate code, take what you can, give nothing back. Absolutely love that. That is incredible. And now that brings us to the live writing game. So Rachel and Dawn, so I know so usually what I do is I'm usually writing on the stream with with my writing community every day. What I've been doing on these podcasts is I will pull up an image from ChatGPT, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use that image just for inspiration for a short little free write. Now, if we want to share it on the stream afterwards, I'll share mine, but totally no pressure. I'm like, I don't care whether or not my writing, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but you know what? We'll see what we get. So when I come up with what is the writing topic, or what is the writing prompt, I'll always put in, I'm going to blow this up so our writers can see, writing prompt. So give us, now I'm thinking about the theme and kind of what we've been talking about with writing collaborations. And I know you both share that you always like to start with an antagonist and an obstacle. So I'm going to take that idea, starting off with give us an image for a live for a free write exercise. It needs to have an antagonist, and it needs to have a clear antagonist and obstacle. It needs to have a clear protagonist and an object. Now, because I'm very inspired by all the supernatural that we have going on with your guys' books, what What types of like theme do you think we should give it of a supernatural vibe, or do you think we should give it any type of like it should be some types of characters? What do you guys think about this?
I'm cool with just going supernatural and
Supernatural.
seeing what happens.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll
I
give
like
it supernatural.
supernatural.
It needs to have a clear protagonist and an object. Give it make the characters and the theme supernatural. So, all right, perfect. Let's see what that gives us. What I've learned from the enchanted amulet. Interesting. So it's giving us, it gave us a prompt this time. Perfect. So give us, because I didn't write an image. Turn it into an image. Perfect. So what I've learned a lot of the time with this process is sometimes it's a great image. Sometimes it's challenging. we'll see. We'll see what this thing gives us. Maybe. Yeah, so I find it's always a hit or miss, but sometimes it does a really good job in actually coming up with characters, and sometimes it's kind of like a little funky and a little miss. All right, so it looks like we got, so give us, so it looks like we have some type of priest, some type of character and a tree. Interesting, intriguing. All right, let's give us either characters or elements that are, I'm thinking, what do we have? We have, what are the characters that you two are touching on in your books? I know you mentioned obviously dragons.
Dragons, vampires, demons. So
that are possibly vampires, dragons, demons,
lichen, or werewolf. I mean, I don't think it'll come up. I don't think it'll bring up lichen, but werewolf.
Vampires, dragons, demons, werewolves, etc. And let's see what it gives us. I think because I put in the writing exercise, give us. Perfect. And let's see what we get out of this one. Like I said, this is always an interesting experience. I think sometimes we get really good images, and then like those last ones, it was just kind of, those ones were mixed. I feel like we can probably do better. What I've learned is the more detailed you are, perfect. I think we, all right.
Oh
So
goodness.
it looks like we got wolves. Oh, I love both of them actually. Interesting. So both have a very similar nature. I think this one's a little bit more antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So awesome. What I will do, let's see, I think it's going to have me download it. There we go. Awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up the writing software I got. I'm just working on Word. We'll pull up the timer and the prompt, and then we will get started. Awesome. Give me just a second while I pull that up and get us into it. Well, I'm kind of setting that up. Have either of you ever done, like, I know you guys usually come up with characters and obstacles as you guys are coming up with ideas. Do you guys ever use images for inspiration?
For our characters, yeah.
Mhm.
We use actors, models, people. I mean, we'll play,
We'll create
use
character aesthetics with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll use those for descriptions and descriptive details for our characters, yeah.
Awesome. I was just curious because I know everybody always has a different process. And I like ask myself, I'm like, how do I get ideas for my stuff? I think for me, I generally tend to be inspired by like people. I'm inspired by like media that I see. I feel like it always changes.
And then she'll if she's out and about, if she sees a place, she'll write it down if she thinks it's a really good place.
I'll take
for
pictures, write it
authority.
down.
Yeah,
Ooh, I love that. I love that. So then
same thing
you'll
with
use
me.
those
Yeah.
images that you've written
Mhm.
then as like, okay, maybe this could be like a setting vibe that we
Right.
can turn into.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, we
That's
have
awesome.
a specific cafe that we've actually used that's in Chapel Hill.
Mhm.
That
Ooh, okay. So you got like the specific writer's vibe cafe.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that. I miss having my writing cafe. So perfect. And it looks like all right, we got some fun facts here. Other rage spit and facts. Someone saying my books made them feel like they weren't alone in their experience because of my characters. Made it all worth it.
Yep.
Aw, Eldritch Sea monsters. Oh man, they're cracking me up. So all right.
Rachel and I spend a lot of time on AuthorTube writing sprints
Mhm.
together. So we're like, hey Rach, hey other Rachel.
Uh, well, Rachel and anybody who's here in the stream, I invite you to come join us for this writing sprint exercise. So we're using these two right images on the side, and we're just going to see what comes. I'm going to throw up some music. We're going to do it as a 20-minute writing sprint, and let's just see what comes. Afterwards, I'll share whatever I have written. You guys will be able to see it on the screen anyways. And then Rachel, Dawn, you guys can share if you come up with anything, and we will go from there. So I got 20 minutes on the clock. I have my music all set up. And all right, we're all ready. So it's time to write now. Whew, all right. Writing sprint exercise done. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So that was interesting. I was surprised at the story that I was actually able to come up with. How'd that writing sprint work out for you two?
I was surprised I got as much down as I did.
Well, went pretty good.
Yeah, I was like, I think I had a pretty fun time actually writing that. I was like, I don't know how this came out. What I'll do is I'll read mine first, and then both of you are more than encouraged to read yours if you'd like. And if you're here in the live stream and you want your work read as well, feel free to email me, and we could always read it on this stream, or we could read it on a future stream. Absolutely. Let's see. What did I come up with? Live free write exercise. I always come up with the title last. I was like, what is for these free writes? The Huntress's Demon. All right. Let's see. So we got a burst of fog exploded around the Huntress as the moonlit covered forest came into view. Bow in hand, she dove behind the tree, drawing it for any demons that may be nearby. The smell of putrid rot and decay hit her nostrils, just as the sweet smell of lavender arose as well. Curse the dead, she muttered under her breath, turning her head around the tree. Not a soul in sight. All was quiet. The smells, however, wouldn't lie. With a deep breath, the Huntress closed her eyes to recenter herself. Her gloved fingers held the bowstring taut, prepared for what was to come. She needed to find the true strength to overcome what would most likely be the end. One chance, she uttered, her breath turning to frost before her face. One strike, the Huntress finalized and nodded. A warping click of a tree being splintered in half tore through the silence. The Huntress rolled away from the dead tree, crying, "For the war fiend!" The deadly silent landscape erupted into one of chaos as wolves and lycanthropes of all natures dashed out from their hiding spots. The Huntress kicked one in the gut, using its fallen body to stepstone off and elbow another charging demon. "Face stealers!" she spat, kneeing a lycanthrope attempting to grab her. "I'll be damned before death's embrace!" As three of these demons surrounded her, their red eyes of possession burning brightly. She stood, circled, her hand still stretching out the demon bow. Any demon hunter was known to hold a bow taut for hours. She could last days. A growl escaped her lips. "Come at me, demons!" In one instance, all three wolves leaped at her, bloody teeth going in for a kill. Unlike she had been taught, the Huntress wrapped herself in shadows, as all three demons collided face first into one another. She landed feet away from them, as the shadows deposited her back into this mortal realm. The putrid smell worsened. "Finally, you faced me, brother." With the lightning quickness of a true demon hunter, the Huntress hopped up, spinning around in the air, and let the arrow fly true. The arrow sped through the air, ripping the very fabric of reality itself. As strands of shadow, light, and moon wrapped the tip. The tips paused a centimeter from the winged werewolf's face, the edge of it held between his fingers. "Welcome, sister." The being towered thrice her size, looking down on her as it held fast the arrow. He returned her bow to the backside and smirked. "Death to you, brother. We both know this is the end. For you, perhaps." He laughed with a hint of strain, not letting go of the bow, or of the arrow. "You can't hold that forever, brother. Then may death be to us both, sister." The Huntress grinned. "May death embrace us." The Huntress dashed forward, and with a single leap, she dove at the winged wolf as its claws swiped out, and the arrow pierced them both. The end. I was like, all right. I was surprised I was able to almost tell a fully formed story. That's always like my challenge with these free writes. I'm like, and am I able to actually write and create a full story in 20 minutes? Did either of you want to share what you had come up with?
Sure. Celeste drew her bow and took aim, while Darius drew his sword to challenge the demon Turiel. The lichen circled the pair, closing in, preparing to pounce. The one to her left closed in to lunge as she took her shot. The sting of fangs sinking into her shoulder was like fire as she pulled herself free to roll away in hopes of getting another shot off. Meanwhile, while Darius, with sword in hand, charged the demon, Muriel in the challenge with Tyrael in the challenge with a sword of his own, and the sound of clashing metal filled the air. Sparks flew from the swords of the magic, from Darius's sword repelled the demon blade and its putrid essence. Darius, look, Darius, look out behind you, Celeste called the warning to the warrior, but it came too late. She watched as her brother in arms was brought down by the two large dark-furred lichen that had come up from behind him out of nowhere. The smell of fresh blood was thick and heavy in the air, mingling now with the stench of brimstone from the demon and the smell of death from the lichen. Unwilling to let Darius's death be in vain, Celeste drew her final arrow and notched it. She could feel the breath of the lichen on the back of her neck as she let it loose. Celeste could only pray that the blessed tip found its mark as she felt the teeth and darkness take her. There you go.
I like that. I like Celeste. Awesome. So perfect. So I feel like we were able to make like some good progress there. I feel like I'm always of the mindset of like, all right, whatever writing we can get, whatever writing we can actually get through. So excellent. With that being said, this brings us to the end of our stream. So Rachel, Dawn, I just want to thank both of you for joining me today. We had an absolutely great time chatting with you both. And I know talking about writing collaborations brought a lot of value to our writing community here. So just thank you for all of your insight and your experience and your expertise.
Thank you for having us.
With for those of you who are watching here in the live stream or watching on the replay, once again, if you want to know more about Rachel or Dawn, there's their information can be found at racheldadams.com, and all of their links are down in the YouTube description below. And I'm going to let both of you get going, but thank you so much for joining me. It's been a really great experience.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, you both. All right, beautiful. And as we're just wrapping up the stream, and as we look towards creative writing on the morrow, don't forget that if you enjoyed this stream, tap that like button on your way out. This was a really, really great stream, and definitely help us show that writing streams, this podcast is cool. If you're looking for something to watch next, go check out the previous episode of the Create Right Now podcast, episode 9, about how to overcome your mental health. It's down in the YouTube description down below. And thank you all for joining us today. It's been a great experience. And let's see. It looks like, and Rachel came up with a betrayal story. You know, the ideas that we get for our writing and for our for these streams. So once again, I appreciate you all for joining us. And that, my friends, is all that I got for you. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.